I know that you're probably here because you too love what Alain Boublil and Claude Michel Schoenberg have brought us through so much of their work. And I wanted to give you a bit of the backstory. You might wonder why a Loyola UVA professor knows these amazing men. I wanted to tell you about that. It's all on account of Victor Hugo, the French novelist. I'm a certified Victor Hugo nut. Anyone who knows me knows that. And I'm writing a book about Les Miserables. So a few years ago, I asked our guests whether they would be willing to talk to me about their knowledge of the novel and about their musical, because I think that Les Mis absolutely captures the heart of Hugo's novel in an amazing way. And so they said yes, they were very kind. And I met Claude Michel first in his London garden, and we talked about the themes, we talked about the music. It was like talking to a piece of music to talk to Claude Michel Schoenberg. And we talked about the characters, and it was a bit frustrating to me because he would not say that he had a favorite character, which I asked, but he did admit that he has a lot of sympathy for Inspector Javert, so I share that with you already. And when I mentioned that I would be teaching a university seminar here on Les Miserables, he asked me, would you like me to come talk with your students? And how nice is that? I said, yes, I would. And he looked me dead in the eyes like this far away, and just simply said, invite me, which was a very lovely thing to say. So that invitation began a series of intriguing, engaging conversations that led to the 2014 residency that Michael referred to. And when they came then and this year, they've spent an enormous amount of time with our students in music and drama, doing everything from answering, sometimes over and over again in the most gracious way, as though it were the first time they were answering the question, what is your favorite song from your shows? And also workshopping. They workshop with the university singers, they workshop with our musical theater students, they visited with the voice students and music this year. And the students have really gotten a lot from those experiences. And then when they came last time, Alain Boublil and I were able to sit down together. We talked about revolution and sacrifice, Hugo's life and his loves. We talked about spirituality, just a sampling of the rich themes that they have brought us in their shows. So tonight we're letting you in on our conversation. And first, though, you have in the program some of their awards, but I just love to talk about this. They have won more awards than I could possibly list: Grammys, Tonys, Golden Globes, an Olivier Award for the Best British Musical. Their Les Miserables, the world's longest-running musical, has won more than 140 major theater awards, played in 44 different countries, and been seen by over 70 million people, many of us probably. Miss Saigon first ran in London for a decade and has since been seen in over 300 cities and by over 40 million people. And as Michael said, a new Miss Saigon comes to Broadway later this month. Please give a very warm welcome to Claude Michel Schoenberg and Alain Boublil. So I know that you want to hear about Les Miserables and Miss Saigon, but let's do this in order. I really would like to talk to you about your how you got into music. And so these men are both from France, kind of grew up in France and speak French, but you're really citizens of the world now. And I just hoped you'd talk to us a little bit about your early music experiences, what got you involved in music, your background.
Music or musicals?
And musicals. I mean, really thinking back to when you were younger.
Anyway, we are both immigrant.
Alain was born in Tunisia, and my parents were Jewish-Hungarian, and they came to France. So we are not from the French deep roots culture, but we were coming from abroad. And now Alain moved to New York, I'm living in London, so we are really immigrants of the world, and we really think that it's the exchange and open doors who are creating a rich culture and allow the arts to develop and to be in different way very rich. And it's not, you can't have a culture in a country which is completely closed, because it can be the culture of North Korea, of USSR, or China. It's a diktat. It's not anymore a culture. So we think that we are different, and that's what we realized when we came with Les Mis to London. It's our difference. It's the difference is making the richness of the culture.
So you understand you are speaking to two refugees here.
So I don't know for Alain, but me, I was born in the music, I don't know why. Like a priest can tell you that he heard a voice telling him, you're going to serve the Lord. I was born to serve the music, that's all I know. I didn't have any choice. So that's it. That's all.
And I come from a family with no artist, no musical background whatsoever. But at a very early age, I was trying to make sentences rhyme, and I was parodying the songs I was hearing on the radio in Tunisia, where I was living at that time, where we have obviously a French culture, but in a Muslim country. So I was rewriting the lyrics of the famous song which I was hearing on the radio. Probably worse lyrics than the one that they were singing. But it's an exercise which I remember now doing all the time. Anyway, to cut short through that, both of us ended up obviously in Paris, which is where you come, wherever you are from. If you are in a provincial town, you always end up in Paris. And that's where you can, you know, study and grow up. And, or maybe because also we were ambitious. And that's the only place where you can accomplish your ambitions, at least at that time. And we both ended up writing pop songs and entering that world of songwriting, me as a lyricist, working with other composers, and Claude Michel writing sometimes both music and lyrics, most of the time, and not knowing each other. And it's through an accident, really, that I heard on the radio a song which I really loved, sung by a young girl. And I just called the radio station and said, who wrote that song? And they told me, a guy called Schoenberg, Claude Michel Schoenberg. So I said, okay, where is he? So I told you, very easy, you can contact him. He's working for a record company. So I called the record company and spoke to him, and that's how we met for the first time, just because I liked one of his songs, which I heard on the radio.
It was in '67.
So after that, we discovered that we had common taste, common grounds, common subject of interest, and one of these interests is that we were both fed up with the 3-minute song format, at least frustrated with it. And although we were quite successful in that world, having been recorded by some famous artists in France, both of us, and producing other artists, you know, we're being part of the French show business in a modest way. We both were discussing, and that's how we discovered that West Side Story had played a huge role in both our lives. And we thought that this was something which was just impossible, that we will never be able to write. And we thought, let's keep on doing what we are doing. Until one day, I was in New York, went to see a musical, which in French didn't exist, didn't mean anything. And that musical was Jesus Christ Superstar. Why do you laugh?
Why do you laugh?
I don't understand.
That's what.
Someone will explain to me later.
I don't understand. I can't help it.
Anyway, watching Jesus Christ Superstar, written by two people who became friends later, Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice, I thought, Leonard Bernstein we cannot do, but what these two guys have done, I think that's something we can do. Because suddenly it was a mix of history, a kind of modern way to approach the musical. It was very different from the classic masterpiece, which we thought, or at least I thought at Claude Michel too, unreachable, something that we could not aim for. Then history changed that later, but that's something else. But I came back, and that same night, I dreamt of a subject while walking 42nd Street, which at that time was not Disney-like and a clean avenue. and believe me, it was not. And around 3 in the morning, I thought, why don't we do the French Revolution? But I mean the real one, not the 3 days battle that you see in Les Miserables. And came back to Paris, spoke to a friend I was working with, who suddenly said, but this is what Claude Michel should be doing with you. And we spoke again. I told him, why don't we do? Because suddenly realizing that Robespierre and Marat and Saint-Just and even the king and Marie Antoinette were our age. That we were, 25, 26, and they were all our age. Suddenly there was probably a subject here for a rock opera or something of the same kind of what Jesus Christ Superstar was. We spoke about it, and suddenly everyone was excited, enthusiastic about the idea, and that's how we started our real collaboration.
I heard a few months before, and I came back with the idea, I heard a fantastic record by Deep Purple, if you remember and they wrote a kind of concerto for a rock and roll band and symphonic orchestra, and I thought that was fantastic. So I told Alain, yes, let's do it, and the Revolutionaries will be the rock and roll band, and we will have the big orchestra because I always loved opera. I fell in the opera swimming pool when I was very young. I don't know why, but it was always my first love. I even remember the set and everything we did happen during the first opera I saw when I was 5 years old in 1949 in Paris. It was Madame Butterfly. I can describe exactly the set and how I was impressed and captured by this world. So I told Alain, let's try to make a kind of rock and roll group and big symphonic orchestra. And we did it because we had 50 musicians, who was in those days possible, not anymore. But,
plus a very famous rock band on stage. And obviously there was no way that we could convince anyone to produce this idea. So we did a concept album, exactly the same way that Jesus Christ Superstar started with a famous concept album. And we were very lucky because we didn't have to convince anyone. The success of the album overnight, in the middle of the disco period in France and everywhere else in the world. So suddenly everyone was talking dance music, and it was like Boney M and things which you may not remember, but it was the beginning of that hammer in the background, and suddenly we do the French Revolution as a rock opera, and it becomes an overnight success. And the success of the album was such that the album sold nearly 500,000 records in 2 months, and we got a call from the most famous producer in France, which was a radio station, because there was no producer as such at that time except for pop artists, pop singers, and he said, do you want to turn it into a show? I said, what do you mean? He said, but I said, it's just an album, it's 24 songs. And he said, look, September is the date. What do you mean September? He said, we are opening at the end of September. I said, why? And he said, was it Rudolf Nureyev?
No, it was
the
later.
Moscow Circus.
Yeah.
They had, in that big arena where we did the show, there was the Circus of Moscow, which was supposed to appear, and they had to cancel for some reason. And he said, you have 47 days, but we are starting at the end of September. And we were at the end of June. So, in 1 month, we wrote all the recitatives, all the links. We turned these 24 songs into something that was a kind of a dramatic evening, you know. And we met 2 or 3 directors, very famous at that time, ended up casting in August, and the show opened at the end of September and was sold out for the 47 performances. We could have played for another month or 2, and we are talking about 4,000-seat arena.
And I was Louis XVI.
He was Louis.
Every night he was guillotined on stage.
Has been beheaded 47 times.
But you were bored, you said, after the 3rd performance, but you stuck it out.
Yeah, that's
tenacious.
that's why I realized that to perform on the stage was not my cup of tea, because the first night I was scared to death, and the second night it was okay. The third night I started to think, oh my God, it's going to be exactly the same. And after I realized, but I'm not going to be here in 1 week, in 2 weeks doing exactly the same thing. So I realized it was not for me at all, not at all. And to be a performer, coming on stage, singing always the same thing, it was not for me. But I know and I acknowledge that for some people it's a real life. And
since then we've been casting something like 2,000 actors, and at least, maybe more. And obviously we never tell them any of that.
Don't listen over there. I just have to tell you too, Claude Michel had a #1 hit song, pop song, Le Premier Pas, the first step, that you can listen to on YouTube. Actually, you know that, of course.
Yeah, of course, it's the same problem, because I was writing songs and songs and songs, and one of the songs nobody wanted to sing it, nobody at all. So at the end, it was already Alain who told me, but why don't you sing it? I said, I don't want to be a singer. I don't want to be a performer. Night after night singing. He said, but nobody wants to sing your song. So at the end, we went to the recording studio. We did it. The record was #1, 16 weeks. So of course, after everybody in Paris, like I used to say, all the horses and dogs singing in Paris wanted to sing my songs.
Oh, that is a beautiful song. I recommend.
Okay, I'm trapped. I know
Oh, will
I'm
you?
trapped.
Oh, thank you.
Just the beginning, yeah?
After he gets bored.
Le premier pas, j'aimerais qu'elle fasse le premier pas. Je sais, cela ne se fait pas. Pourtant, j'aimerais que ce soit elle qui vienne à moi. Car voyez-vous, je n'ose pas rechercher la manière de la voir, de lui plaire, l'approcher, lui manger, etc. It was
Very
in,
French.
It was in '74. So you imagine it's a long time. I have not seen and played that song.
Not one couple has not been dancing on this song during the summer of that year. And many people have married because of this song.
For those who understand French,
You can guess why.
For those who don't understand French, le premier pas is the first step. And it starts out, he's wishing she would take the first step. And it's a really beautiful, I recommend that you listen. It's a very beautiful song. Thank you. Thank you.
that's reassuring that I can still sing
It is. It is. So before we leave and segue to Les Miserables, I just want to say you can also get La Révolution Française on CD, which I recently did, and I'm very happy to have that.
So if you want to be even happier, you should know that we're working on a project of a concert of La Révolution
I
Française.
didn't dare ask.
Maybe in 2 years' time, but with a major orchestra,
Okay, so
major American orchestra.
now I can speak. I wasn't sure whether to speak. There was a concert reading of the French Revolution in the first English translation done in a combination of Northwestern University and a Chicago theater that Bob J. Pohl and Maria and I were able to go see about 1.5 years ago. It was really
And based upon that, we are now
Really,
discussing the project of a professional concert.
professional concert, so
In New
keep
York.
your eyes open. Wow, it's exciting. So next,
Did you like it?
I loved it. I loved it. And I'm not a rock person, but I
It was
loved it.
not just rock.
It's not just rock, and there was a new beautiful love song that you wrote for this new performance. So yes, are you doing it you're doing the English then in New York?
Yes,
so
of
it'll be
course,
the English,
yeah.
English translation. That's news. I didn't know that. So next you did Les Miserables. Did you do
No, what did
you
happen that the French Revolution, we conceived it as 24 songs illustrating the French Revolution from 89 to the death of...
To 94, to the end of the terror.
And we had 24 songs, and when the show was finished, and of course in France, because there is no tradition of musicals, when the show is finished, it's finished. There is nothing else happening.
Means it doesn't transfer.
It doesn't transfer or nothing. So Alain told me, so what are we doing next? I told him, next time maybe we can have a big subject and we can try to write a full song through in continuity and not 24 songs that after we link together. And that's where we were at the end of 74. And it's exactly 4 years after we were back to writing songs, because of course after my #1 hit everybody wanted to sing my songs, so I was writing songs and songs and songs, 3 minutes, one verse, one chorus, one verse, one chorus, change of key, a chorus, and collab. But that's very important, because I told you yesterday that in musical business, to know how to write good songs, it's crucial. It's very important. And Jerome Kern writing Showboat, Allman River. It's one of the most beautiful songs. Stephen Sondheim writing Sand in the Cloud or Joanna in Sweeney Todd. It's beautiful song. Andrew Lloyd Webber writing in Memory or for the Phantom. And you have to know how to craft a song. That's what we miss the most in musical theater today. There is very few people knowing exactly how to craft a very good song. So it's very important, and I remind everybody, and when you go out in the wings here, there is a lot of little boxes, soundproof, with people playing instrument inside, and you can't hear what they play. But that's the way that George Gershwin started. For a publisher in New York, he was in a little booth all day in a box, writing songs for Al Johnson, Tootsie Goodbye, all those songs. He wrote plenty of songs before he started to do a fantastic career as practically classical composer. And when you hear Summertime or all the beautiful songs from Porgy and Bess, you know he's a really great songwriter. It's very important. So we knew how to write songs, but we wanted to write a big epic story. And 4 years after,
I was in London one evening, and I was watching a musical called Oliver. You guessed it right. And I started to think about the character of Gavroche in Les Miserables, the novel, which I had not read for maybe 10 years. And after a few minutes, I was still watching Oliver, but I was watching as if the stage was divided in two. And I had, in fact, it was the stage of my mind that was divided in two. On one half, there was the Artful Dodger running on stage. And on the other half, I could see Gavroche, and there was Javert appearing, and Jean Valjean, and it was like a strange mix between the two stories. And I thought that must mean something, and that probably Les Miserables was something which might be the big story that Claude Michel was saying we were trying to find in order to be able finally to write a score, a full score of a fully fledged musical, which was our utmost ambition. So I came back to Paris, discussed it with him, and he said, we should start tomorrow morning.
I was surprised that nobody thought about it before. And as a matter of fact,
Puccini had.
Yeah, Puccini thought in 1902. He started to work on Les Miserables, the opera, but they thought, as they didn't have a lyricist like Alain, that it was too complicated, and they gave up on the project. And he wrote Madame Butterfly, from which we wrote Miss Saigon. So we have to thank Puccini twice. For not writing Les Miserables and for writing Madame Butterfly.
So after that, obviously, we started to work, and we wrote, the first version of Les Miserables in a year and a half. We did, as usual, a demo with Claude Michel singing all the parts and playing the piano, and me just helping sometime on the choir, but very rarely. And with this demo,
no, because
we convinced.
I want the pitch must be perfect on the demo, so.
So we're
soulmates over here.
We convinced.
But he was whistling. You were whistling the Gavroche song.
Right.
Okay.
Which is my strength.
Your forte.
And we convinced a famous director, very famous in France, to listen to that demo. And again, we went through the concept album route, which helped a lot also. And we found ourselves back on the stage without having to convince a producer, without having to convince too many people. And the show was a huge success in Paris. Unlike what I hear sometimes, that it was just an arena production that lasted 2 weeks. It lasted for 3 months, again in that huge place. And more than 200,000 people saw it during the performances in Paris. Then it closed, as he said before. When you close in Paris, you close. It's finished. You've done it. It's been a hit. It's great. And that's it. A few records were played on the radio from the musical. So it had a successful run also for some of the recording artists which participated in the concert album. And after that, we were done until in a little later, in 1983, we got a call from a man called Cameron Mackintosh. And he said on the phone, I'm Cameron Mackintosh, I'm an English producer, can I come and see you? And I said, who? And he said, Cameron Mackintosh, and he said, I produced Cats. I said, what? So, didn't start very well. So, starting like that, he said, can I come and see you in Paris? And you know, there was no Google at that time that you can find out while you have the guy on the phone and find out who he is or what he's talking about.
So immediately we took a plane and we went to see Cats
in London.
And we realized that the guy might be a serious
It was
one.
very serious because we loved Cats. And I thought it was so clever. I mean, at that time, I mean, it was unheard of, and the sets were amazing, and there was that memory song at the end, and Ellen Page was singing in it. I mean, and we came back and waited for him. Then, and the meeting happened, and the rest, shall I say, is history. You know, we have been collaborating for 30 years now.
So tell us what it was like. So I hear Claude Michel spoke more English than he let on at the early meetings. But in any case, you had written this in French in a non-musical theater in a country that doesn't do musical theater, and now you're talking to people in the musical
but Cameron
theater
didn't care
country.
about any of that.
No, so how was it to work together?
Yeah, okay, we'll tell you in a second. But there was one thing that Cameron said at minute one to both of us. When we said, but why do you think it could translate in England? And you sure that? And he said, look, guys, one thing I must tell you. You don't realize what you have written. And we started from that. And then he said, second thing, I will only do it if you come to London, spend a lot of time in London, because the only people I trust are the authors. Because only the authors know and understand the original impulse that gave birth to a work. And I love directors, I hire stage designers, I work with all of them. But at the end, it's going to be the three of us who will decide everything together. And I must say, he kept his word.
And it was very bold because we didn't have any knowledge of the rules and what's musical theater. From the fact that you're making it to watch, yes, it's okay. But from the other side, to make it, it's quite a job. We didn't know at all. That's why when we arrived in London, Cameron introduced us to a writer, English writer called James Fenton, who was rewriting the show with us, explaining the rules of the storytelling and everything. We met the director of Cats, Trevor Nunn.
And John Caird. And suddenly we are in a
Caird.
room with all the divas of English musical theatre who treat us like royalty because they love our, you know, the record that they have because they have never seen the show in Paris. None of them. Neither Cameron, nor Trevor Nunn, John Napier, John Caird, no one has
Because
seen our
Cameron
show.
heard the record 2 years after the closing in Paris. And suddenly we had the set designer of Cats, John Napier, the lighting designer of Cats,
David Hersey,
all those people around us, and we were like sponge. We were taking all the information and learning and rewriting.
Fast.
With Herbert Kressmer, we came on board to write the lyrics.
A little later.
And so we spent 1 year rewriting the show to be ready to open at the Barbican with the co-production of the Royal Shakespeare.
And the first very clever thing that James Fenton said and Cameron said is that this story is patrimonial to France, and no one need to explain who is Jean Valjean, who is Javert, who is Gavroche, and who is Fantine. And you know, two lovers in France are Cosette and Marius, you know. That's how you call lovers even today, you know. So he said, but in France, no one knows, or in England, no one knows. They know a bit about it, but they don't know. And they said, what do you think about writing a prologue to the musical? The musical in Paris was starting at the end of the day. That's where it was starting. That was the beginning of the show. You didn't need to explain before where Jean Valjean was coming from. So you were starting the show with Jean Valjean being already Mr. Madeleine, who ran the factory and has Fantine as an employee of the factory. So we had, and suddenly, you know, okay, for us it was like a new world. Writing a prologue, what do you mean? And they said, so Claude Michel came up with the idea that instead of, as we don't have like a proper overture, why don't we do extracts for the future melodies with each of the characters and make this as a prologue of the show? And that's how the prologue that you now know, like, and that we, you know, think is part of the show forever, that's how it was born. Maybe you can explain how you did that.
It's a kind of 20 minutes medley of all the future tunes that you're going to hear over, in the show, because we didn't have any overture. And in the past, the tradition that was the overture was a medley of the evening.
Yeah, South Pacific and all that. It's always a medley.
So I thought, why don't I try it? And at the same time, I had already a lot of melody from the French show, so it was not to write only 2 or 3 brand new melody and for 20 minutes, which is not a big deal. So that's how we started to write.
So it's a sung medley of all the forthcoming melodies, and it's very subliminal, so you don't necessarily recognize them. But if you pay attention, you will see that there is a little bit of everything which belongs to every character.
Which is an example of something I've heard you say, great musicals break rules. Most musicals don't have a prologue, so what else did you break? What other rules
when
did
they
you
do,
break?
they would have one character which is completely extraneous to the show, and it would be cabaret, it would be, and he comes and he will sing a song to the audience saying, come to my story or to my cabaret. That's what a prologue is usually. But a prologue like that, no, has never been done.
No.
But at the same time, again, you should say, or we should say that we didn't know that we're breaking any rules because we didn't know there were rules.
So it was easy because you didn't know there were any rules. Were you at all nervous about the show's reception?
In England?
In
England, it was a disaster.
You should read the press.
Well, I know, but were you worried before?
What can be worse than a bad musical? Coma, a French musical. That's what it was in the Daily Mail.
Are
The
we
Glums,
just
we
the
were-
glums?
The Glums, that was the
Oh, and it
title.
was called The Glums.
The Glums.
Glums.
And then you had all the jokes about Les Miserables.
And of course, it's a tradition for Cameron to have a lunch with all the creative team the following day of the opening, and we had our lunch, but it was like a funeral lunch. Because we thought that there was a 2 months run at the Barbican Center where was the Royal Shakespeare Company, and we thought that after that it's finished. It will be a disaster.
Yeah, Trevor Nunn was losing probably his directorship there.
Because he co-produced for the first time with the Royal Shakespeare Company. He was a director, a musical show. And Cameron, to have an evaluation of the disaster, was trying to ring the Barbican Center to know how the box office was affected by such a platoon of very bad critics. Even on television, it was terrible. And he couldn't get through. He couldn't get through, So at the end, he called the director of the Barbican Center. He said, "Well, I'm trying to call the box office and I can't get through." And the guy said, "But we sold 5,000 tickets just in one morning. We are totally, the line, there is no lines."
We don't have enough phones, it was.
And we didn't know why. I mean, it's against the press. And maybe because of Princess Diana, we came the night before the opening and it was a wonderful PR for us, I must say. But even so, it was the people with their feet that they decide that they want to see the show. And even the bad critics were encouraging them to come and to see the show. Because what they were saying about it's over the top, it's too romantic, they wanted to see the show.
It trivializes the novel, which we had a lot of time, but nothing could stop this to become the people show. And, you know,
and do
you hear the people sing?
And I remember, I won't say his name, but the critics who wrote The Glums.
He died, yes.
1 year after, he wrote at the same place, in the same newspaper, he wrote an article called Mea Culpa. And he apologized, and he said, "Yes, I did not understand."
No, but that's, I mean, we can mention him. It was called Jack Tinker,
and he was
writing for the
nice
Daily
man.
Mail, and I think it was wonderful to have a critic writing Mea Culpa and making a second article. You know, there was one anecdote, I don't know if I should say, that's very incorrect.
I don't know.
You know,
I don't know what you're going to say.
The French theater playwright, Sacha Guitry, I don't know if you know the name, he said one day, critics are like eunuchs. They know what to do, but they don't know how to do. They cannot do it. He was French. Il a dit les eunuques savent ce qu'il faut faire, mais ils savent pas comment, ils peuvent pas le faire. Les critiques sont comme des eunuques.
No translation.
I think he started.
Off the record, obviously. Yeah? Can you stop this machine?
It's a little late. So the people voted. So here we.
And
yes.
did you already ask a child, what do you want to do later? No child is answering, I want to be a critic. I'm sorry if there is one critic here tonight, but they all want to be in the movie business, to be a writer, to be a singer, and eventually, if it's not working very well, they become a critic.
Victor Hugo would agree with you. Yeah. So, all right. So the people voted with their feet, and here we have a musical where lots of people die.
We can keep going on the critic stuff.
Yeah. Would you want to? You want?
I have a lot to say.
I have nothing more to say, because after Les Miserables, we had very good reviews on most of the things,
Yes.
except Pirate Queen, which you heard the song before called Woman. That's the show from which that song was.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Next one.
Well, this is my question. So this inspires my book. Here we have a very tragic show, but people tend to leave the theater feeling inspired and full of hope. And I just want to hear from you what you think is happening there.
That's a discussion we had yesterday evening.
Yeah, I want you to say it.
She wants to share it.
I want to share it with all of these people.
Okay.
Well,
shall we develop it or?
Yeah, you do what you like.
Well, it's about
I don't want you to be
redemption.
bored.
The end of this show is about redemption. So it's like you forget that people are dying. During the second half, that's all you can see. It's people dying on the barricade. And at the end, it's all about becoming a better person. And it leaves you with a good feeling and a good taste. Although you are sad, or you should be sad, you are still happy. And that's the mystery of the novel. The novel is exactly followed, the same journey, obviously, because that's where the musical was born from. And you have that feeling that you want to read it again, because you are feeling that you could become someone else, that you could be a better person. And this is the everlasting message in that novel. And it looks like we have been able to catch the spirit of that message in the musical.
Yes, we were talking yesterday evening about the spirit of the novel, spirit of the show, and at the end, you want to be a better person, as Alain said, because the show, it's all about if you are good, you are stronger than the bad people, because goodness is stronger than badness. So you want to be a better person, and all the message of Victor Hugo, it's about it.
Yeah, and they've all discovered that, they all discover through love, which is the basis of Marva's book, sorry. They all discover different forms of love during this novel. Each of them discovers love. I won't describe the one that are easily recognizable, but even Jean Valjean, who has no romance, who has no romantic life, discovers his love for that little girl. And this man, which was full of anger, of wish for revenge, of wish to he wanted the 25 years he had lost in a lifetime to be given back to him, discover through the eyes of a little girl during 5 minutes what it is to love someone else. That's what the show ends with. To love another person is to see the face of God. That's Victor Hugo's interpretation. But it works.
And so while you were waiting for, when were you starting Miss Saigon? Was Les Miserables opening? Were you already thinking about Miss Saigon?
We were thinking, the first time I saw the picture inspiring the Miss Saigon show was during the transfer of Les Miserables from the Barbican Centre to the Palace Theatre in London, because the booking was doing well, and Cameron thought that it's okay to transfer. And I was talking to Alain, I always wanted to update the Madame Butterfly opera story into the modern time. So I was thinking of different situations, and I was telling me, oh no, that's not very good, not very interesting. And one day I saw the picture of that girl leaving her mother at Saigon airport because the girl was rejoining in the US her ex-GI father that the mother found after years of searching for him. And it's the moment when, for the last time, they are facing each other. She's going to board the plane, and the mother knew that she's not going to see again in her life this little girl, and the girl was there. It was like two statues of grief and pain, the picture. I was very impressed because I was already a father, and I was thinking, but what's happening if my little boy is leaving me tomorrow, and I know I'm not going to see him again? And as a child, if I was at some point in my life knowing that it's the last time I'm with my parents, so I was very shocked by the picture. It's still the picture that we have in the program. And I thought that the sacrifice that this woman did to find the father for the better future of her daughter was exactly the same that the war undergone by Cho-Cho-san in the Madame Butterfly opera, which is she's committing suicide to force the American guy Pinkerton to take the child with him back to the US. And I called Alain and I told him, imagine that the story of Butterfly is happening during the Vietnam War, and an American GI is in love with a Vietnamese girl, and he doesn't know when he's coming back to the US, but he has a child. And we all started like that, and we thought that in the opera she's a geisha, so she must be a kind of bar girl dancing. And Alain, who have always been fond of pageant, and
Well, in
miss...
perverted corner of my mind, I always wanted to put a beauty pageant on stage. But I didn't know why, didn't have the subject to do that. But I thought it would be fun to have a beauty pageant in musical. So suddenly I thought, what about a lousy one, really a terrible one, a gritty one, a cheap one, and which was the case in Saigon. This existed. And I said, Claude Michel, maybe the show should be called Miss Saigon. And that's how we started work. Immediately we knew we had a story, we had a reason to update it, and we had a title. That's a lot when you start working on a musical.
So what's next in the creative process? Did you do research? Do you start writing the music? Don't you
Yes,
have the
of course,
story?
we were researching what was the situation in 1975 in Saigon, because there was still American soldiers, 2,000, mainly working for the embassy and for the administration, because President Johnson has already brought back home more than 50,000, or I don't know how many American soldiers. And we knew that that kind of situation did exist in Saigon, because the soldiers, they had plenty of money, of dollars, they were paying dollars, and in a country where everything was cheap, they were spending dollars on, it was pouring everywhere. So we did a lot of research about it, about the situation, and at some point we wrote the script.
We read a lot of books too.
Yeah, we read a lot of books, and following the structure of Madame Butterfly, we wrote the first draft of the show.
And one day we discovered in a French magazine that there was in Saigon, during the last year of the war, there was a man who was dealing in everything. Whatever you wanted, he will find it for you. Whether it was drugs, girls,
a car,
a visa, a car, anything you wanted, you know. He was the kind, and he was called in French, l'ingénieur, which means the engineer. And suddenly we had the missing link to make this musical completely different from Butterfly. And that's the moment when we took the giant leap of making, little by little, without knowing we were doing it, the engineer becoming the major character of the show and manipulating the other characters in the story. And that's what makes Miss Saigon now, you know, starting from Butterfly, but becoming a complete different piece of work.
But at the same time, we are totally in agreement with more or less the message of what we are writing, because our perception of humanity is exactly the perception of Les Miserables. That's how we conceive the world. And we were, even as Frenchmen, totally revolted against that Vietnam War. We did not understand why a young guy from North Dakota had to go to the rice field in Vietnam to be killed. We did not understand it at all. We had our own experience with the French people during the Vietnam War. We finished in Dien Bien Phu.
Disaster.
We were already against that kind of colonization and occupying countries and fighting against the independence of the country. So we were totally in sync with the message of the story, and we thought that the best way to express that we don't like at all anything we have to do with war, with violence, was to tell the story of those two simple people, a young girl and a young guy falling in love, but completely destroyed by the war. Because maybe it's the best way to explain what's wrong about violence, about the war. And I remember something wonderful that I will always remember. When there was an invasion of the Iraq war started, the second one, by George Bush, there was an interview of a young Algerian girl, and they were asking us, what do you think about the war we're starting in Iraq? And she said, war? But it's old-fashioned, the war, to fix the problem. War, it's an old-fashioned system. And we have to remember, we have to remind always, very good, I'm going a little bit in a diversion, but it's important. A phrase from Sigmund Freud. He said once that the first man who, instead of throwing a stone, threw an insult to his enemy, he was the creator of the civilization. So, to fight a bullet, instead of speaking, it's not civilization. And we were totally in sync with that message.
But still, we didn't think that we were writing about the war, or any war, or about Vietnam. We thought, and we still believe, that we were writing a doomed love story in times of war, and that we were telling a story of the sacrifice of a mother for her child. So when Miss Saigon came to Broadway, we found ourselves with the equity problem because we were not casting an Asian in part of the engineer, and we found ourselves with some journalists saying that this show shouldn't come to this country because it was going to tear up the fabric of this country. It's true, I've read it. So suddenly we didn't know what show we were presenting. It was like another show that we didn't know, and it was all about the war, all about casting, and it was, a kind of huge dispute which kind of made the whole subject matter of that story evaporate. Fortunately, things settled down, and then we could present Miss Saigon, and it ran for 10 years on Broadway. But I must say I'm very happy that the new production, which is very different from the first one that you may have seen on tour or in New York, comes now in a time when we have a distance with all those things, where the show is blind casted completely. There is no such problem. The lead are all Americans, Asian Americans, and finally we are going to present that doomed love story on that stage. And believe me, as a love story, it really works with the extraordinary lead that we have in this new production.
Maybe they ask question. Huh? We got
So Michel welcomes a question or two from you all, if you'd like.
No, I don't know what time is it. Because it's time now.
Yeah, I don't know. I was going to wrap up in about 5 minutes. So I was so inspired by you, if you're willing to talk. In 2014, you talked about, in a small group, how you collaborate together. They were just honored at Carnegie Hall with a celebration of their 40-year collaboration. They have done individual things, which we don't have time to talk about, but for 40 years, these gentlemen have put together amazing musical theater. And how have you stayed together? How does it work? Why does it work?
We never disagree.
Yes, you do. I've seen it, it's true.
No, I used to say because our wives are good friends. Our first wife and our second wife.
And even more the second.
Yeah, they are good friends. Now, it's because I trust him. I know that he will do what he says, and he knows that if he asks me something, I will do it. And for us, when we talk about one glass, it means exactly the same thing for both of us. There is no misunderstanding. So when we say we're going to write a show about a glass, it's the glass, it's not something else. And that's very important in a collaboration.
There is no such plan.
Maybe they have questions now.
Does anyone have a question? Claude Michel would like your, yes.
What song from any of your performances was the most fun to write?
What song was the most fun to write from any of the shows?
There is no song that it's fun. Of course, to do our job, it's fun. But fun to write, it's difficult and enjoyable at the same time. But there is not easy song. It doesn't exist. So for me, it's always a wonderful pain, because the moment when you're there and the moment that you know that you maybe have something, you're on your own, you don't share it with anybody, that's wonderful. You just keep it for yourself. That's a wonderful moment. It's when there is a light at the end of the tunnel. But it's always after a difficult process of thought, and you have to think about it, talk about it, to call him. It's always, it's not easy. It's never easy. So
The closest thing may be like being pregnant, you know. You are incredibly happy, and at the same time, it's
won't wait 9
very,
months.
very painful at times. But you know that the ending will hopefully be happy. The only song I can mention, if you want a song, is not funny at all. It's a sad song. It's writing the end of Act 1 of Miss Saigon, which is I Know I'd Give My Life for You, which was the most painful and the most exhilarating moment of songwriting maybe that I've been through, or at least that I remember.
Yes.
It seems like in Les Mis, the music was there, and then you developed the dialogue and the script. And then in Miss Saigon, it was the way you described it, it sounded the other way. You had your story.
What dialogue did you hear in Les Mis?
No.
Oh, she means
You mean the book?
She means
Okay, fine, because there is no spoken word, that's why.
or the lyrics.
I said maybe you have seen a version I have not seen. Yeah. I think it was done exactly in the same way for us, which is always we discuss the book for months. We end up with a kind of treatment, which is more like a treatment for a film, with a very, very precise description of both music and lyrics, which becomes our kind of inspirational document from which usually Claude Michel starts to write the music in chronological order, starting really from the first scene that we've been describing. Once we are happy, theatrically, dramatically, which for us is the only thing that counts, because we are convinced, like many people, including Sondheim, said before us, what's a musical, the book, and the book. So we certainly abide by this completely. And once we are pleased with the book, the story, usually Claude Michel starts something, and I follow in his footsteps, but very closely and very quickly, which means it's not like he writes more than 10 minutes of music without us meeting again and like examining the 10 minutes of music together, or me starting to write something for Les Miserables in French, obviously at that time, and that's the usual process. But obviously, while we write the treatment, as you said yesterday, we have some ideas. Like Claude Michel had the waltz of the Thénardier, Master of the House, very early on, as if we do the Thénardier funny characters that we were planning to do, I think I have an idea, which is da 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 da. That, you know, that was already in his mind. I had already, from a chapter from the beginning of the Descent into Hell about Fantine, I had noticed that Victor Hugo was saying that Fantine had dreamt of another life. So that I thought was a perfect title for a song. I dreamt of another life, which is what I Dreamed the Dream was called in French. And I'm sure Claude Michel has 20 more examples like that. No?
No. No, we're a little bit too long. She's already asleep.
Ah, good.
So let's go to another question.
Yeah, so I would like to sort of start wrapping up by saying, that this is your second artistic residency here. Claude Michel is a visiting professor at St. Catherine College at Oxford University. Alain Boublil is mentoring young artists. I'm sure they're doing all kinds of other things that I don't know about. What do you enjoy about working with budding artists, working with students, being here at UVA, being at Oxford, working in New York with beginning musical theater people, one of whom is here tonight? What do you like about it?
Of course, in our position, there is a lot of people sending us projects and what they think it would be good to do, and they want to write lyrics or music, and each time you say, yes, but listen, it's not like that, you have to, and one day you want to officialize it. So when they offer me the invited professor in Oxford, I have a big bunch of people and we can really work on it, because I'm frustrated to see, because there is nobody talking to them about the essential and the basic point. And at the end of the day, doing that year in Oxford, I realized that you don't have to teach them the technique of writing the music and everything, because sometimes they are in the 4th years of musical or composition study and they know the music better than me. But what I can bring them, it's to help them to fill the gap between their intention and what the audience receive. And sometimes it's not a gap, it's a canyon. They don't realize. They want to do something, they play it, and you're there and say, but what do you want to do? What was your intention? They talk, and you ask the other, did you get it? And nobody get it. I said, but when you're doing something, you can't be at your piano, at your table, you must be sitting there. And you must watch and listen what you are doing. So you must be in the position of the audience, not from the point of view of the creator, you have to do it, but from the point of view of the audience. And a very well-known French playwright called Molière used to say, in our work, rule number 1 is to please the audience, and all the rest, all the other rules, are to make the rule number 1 work. So it's something you have to teach them, how to switch completely and consider what the audience receive of what you are doing. That's what I can bring with to them and what they are learning.
That's wonderful. Yes. It's really an honor to have you here. Thank you. The students care so much.